takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of inputs, and you knowing the right people and the right message and the right channel to put all of those messages. So, but then today our focus will be on a B2B tech company. So I don't know how many of us that are on this call are actually working on a B2B tech company or has a digital product that is basically selling to another business. So this is how we're going to move. And so I'll try to start from the perspective of B2C, because generally a lot of people who do marketing are very familiar with B2C. And let me just break it down. There's B2C is your business to consumers or business to customers. Then you have business to business, right? So the thing is, even with business to business, it's still people. Is it human beings on the other side that you are talking to, but you are talking to them in the capacity of the business that you want to gain from them. There's a company that are making decision on behalf of. So yes, this will be our tour guide, our map, basically. So for me, introducing myself, which Bishaya has done, I'll probably just skip through it, show you a couple of the brands and stuff, then we go straight into business. So maybe when you get the slides, you get to read some of the things. So when it comes to training, I do a lot of training apart from the one that I do as a growth marketer. I also train in a couple of schools and some platforms. One of them is White Fusion, probably the first certified digital marketing or digital training school in Nigeria as a then. I also teach on DigiClan's platform. I'm a mentor of Novu Stack, and I also teach at Simon Page. So I teach for one of their certification courses in marketing over there. So when I read the profile, so the experience spans across different aspects, from content marketing to business development to SEO to lead generation and strategy. So if you look at some of these brands, some of them I did SEO for, some of them I did content marketing for. But for the SaaS platforms among them, like the software programs among them, like board admin. Board admin is a management, a board management platform. Basically, as a startup, you want to have a platform where your investors, your advisors can be in sync with the operations of your business. Just so they see the growth and the updates and everything that you guys are doing. So that's what board admin is about. And then Golf VR is like it's a gaming platform that is using VR, like introducing people to gaming via VR. And then at that point we worked. They were also expanding to what do we call it now? Using it for brand activation, right? For people to market and brand to showcase their business. So Gebeya is an online talent marketplace. It's a talent marketplace for tech people. So you're a product designer, you're a product marketer, you're a digital marketer, software developer. So it's a platform where you sign up, you take the test, you have your interview, skill test and all. Then you get onboarded after you've gone through the process and you've passed. You are onboarded to the platform. So there's a side to startups in Nigeria, in Africa, and globally. There are even companies outside Africa that come to the platform to hire. So all of these kind of give summary to things I've done and all of that. So the way the class is going to run, so there'll be some point like this slide that you're seeing now. I want to add some insights, some data to some of the things we'll be discussing, because they say numbers don't lie. So basically just to put data behind some of it, and then there are some, at some point we'll be sharing case studies of some of these strategies and ideas that I find really, really inspiring that you guys can learn from. So at that point where I'm sharing the data or sharing the case study, feel free to pop up your questions and all of that. We can always have the conversations. And if you feel you want to drop the questions before then, you can drop it. Then Bukayo will take it up when we have that so-called book. So this is a research done last year, basically to understand how B2B is growing in terms of marketing spend, how much B2B companies are beginning to put into content marketing as an approach to marketing. And we can see that over the in the past 3 years, let me say basically from 2020, what COVID showed a lot of us during that pandemic period, even people that were not into content, people who were never serious on social media started making content, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, and all of that. So companies are beginning to realize the impact of storytelling, the impact of personalization, how brands can behave and sound and market like human beings. So that's basically what that data is about. Then, so before we start going into strategies and all of that, what is B2B marketing itself? So let me share my thoughts with you. The simplest thing, or the simplest way I can explain this is the Content Marketing Institute definition of content marketing. So it is a strategic marketing approach. It's not a campaign. It is not a tactic, right? So content marketing itself is some form of framework or some sort of strategy that you can have. It's something you can have for over a year period. It's something you can plan for 5 years. It's something you can plan for 10 years. It's actually your approach to marketing. And it means you are leading with your audience, not the brand in most cases that we see. So that's one of the things that differentiates content marketing from it's an inbound approach basically. So you're talking about inbound marketing. So content marketing is an approach, is an example of that. So where you create a yep.
Sorry to interrupt you. So the slide is still on slide 2. I want to confirm you moved or you are still on slide 2.
Sure. I moved.
Okay, so we are still on slide 2. Now we're on slide 8.
Still on slide.
Now we're on slide 8.
Oh.
Just look now.
So, wow. Let me see. It's actually slow to update from there. Let me see. What about now? Is it full screen now?
Yes, it's full screen. Great. Good to go.
It's good to go now. Just that I'm
Yes,
sharing the entire window. So just in case of funny messages pop up, you guys forgive me. All
no
right.
problem.
All right. So in terms of what it is, it's an approach whereby you create valuable. So valuable is very important in content marketing. And when you start talking about yourself or your brand too much, people get pissed off. It's just like you meeting somebody for the first time, or you're hanging out with your friend, and you're always talking about yourself, your shoe, your clothes, things you've done, and you're not allowing the other person to talk, or the other person can't see himself or herself in things you're talking about. The person may lose interest. And then you hear things like, oh, he's talkative, he likes to hear himself speak and stuff. So your content has to be valuable to your customers or your target audience. It has to be relevant. Then it has to be consistent. And if you check social media now, the people popping on social media, you can't take one thing from them. They are consistent. Whether what they are doing is funny, whether what they are doing is silly, you can't take that consistency from them. And that is one of those things you can do. Even if you are coming online to do something that is not funny, if you can continue to do that thing consistently and you can get people to start liking it, over time people will begin to accept the fact that it is funny, or it is not funny, but it is okay. So consistency is very key. Then when you do all of this, you're not just doing it for fun because you like it, but you're doing it because you want to attract and retain a clearly defined audience. So another very, very important point, your audience has to be really, really defined. So we're going to get into some of the things that they emphasize or explain these things further. So I try to differentiate B2C from B2B. I look at the things that are common. I look at the things that are different between both sides, because I believe a lot of people will be moving from B2C to B2B, or you just get a new job. You are now are working on B2B platform, or you have a client that has to get other businesses as their clients, basically. So in so many ways, content marketing works of B2B and B2C companies in the same way. But then it's the application that is different because the decision processes in B2B is different from B2C. That's basically where you have to differentiate how you apply content marketing. It's the same content marketing, having a strategy and all, but because the places where you are going to meet decision makers in B2B, in business to business, basically, it's going to be different from where you are going to meet people when you are directly marketing to customers. So now just to cap the definition, so these are the three things that are happening in a B2B. So you're selling to a company which requires two to uncountable number of persons. So what I'm basically saying here is that if it is B2B, you are guaranteed that it's not one person, except in a one-man business, right? Even if you are talking to a CEO, so you have a product. So let's say like a talent marketplace now, I want to sell it to a company like let's say Estimate, for instance. So I want to hire software developers for Estimate. I know Bukayo, I know Toby, and I think I know about 3 or 4 people who are working in Estimate. Despite that, I know them and we can talk as friends, they can do introduction, all the decision may not lie with them. So even if they introduce me to maybe the head of marketing, for instance, or the marketing director, or they introduce me to their HR, right? They introduce me to the HR, there has to still be intervention of the senior developer or CTO or whoever is in charge of engineering. So I want to help them hire software developer. Whoever is the head of that particular function in that company, the decision still lies with the person. Then the person probably now recommend to the CEO or the HR to hire. So all of those things, you have to navigate all of that. And then you are going to interface with them at different channels at different points. So that's basically what I'm saying. So with B2B, you're selling to a company, and just know that you'll be talking to more than one person, possibly at the same time, maybe 3, 4, 5, depending on how big the company is. Secondly, you are reaching out to, and then you are building relationships with people as decision makers for a company. Just like the example I gave now. So if the client is making a decision for estimate, then it has to make it in line with the processes that estimate has laid down and alongside other team members, not just for himself. Unlike if I want to sell shoes or clothes to Bukayo now, it's for him. He can probably just ask his friend or some of his colleagues, have you bought this kind of shoes before? Is it fine? So that is that for the second part. Then the third part is you're using marketing channels where decision makers do business or at least present themselves to be doing business. So let me give you an instance now, because they're very there's somebody you're very that is your friend in a particular company, and you guys chat a lot on Twitter. Maybe you even drag each other and all of that, and then you want to bring up a business. So immediately you start discussing business. If the person is really serious with it, most likely the person says, "Oh, okay, our HR is in charge of this. Reach out to him on LinkedIn or reach out to her on LinkedIn. Oh, this is my email. Send me email and copy so person." So that is it. So when you're talking to people, even when you know them, they are not making decisions for themselves. They are making decisions on behalf of the business, and you want to be mindful of the channel. So if it's somebody you really do not know, and you always see them on Facebook, maybe they're even what we call it now, they're always playing bands and all of that, playing around on Facebook. You don't want to take business to them there, although you may want to acquaint yourself with them just so they know you, or even ask for proper introduction. Oh, can I reach out to you via email or something? So you have to be mindful of the channel as well. So that is my own explanation of the definition. But then there are other definitions I find very useful depending on the kind of business that you do. So what stream defines content marketing as the heart of using content to expand your business's audience. Then also develop your brand affinity, and at the end of the day, drive leads and sales. So to them, you're talking to a business audience that you already know, you're already clear about. Then you want to build brand affinity. It still boils down to the fact that you need to build trust for people to buy from you. Then when you are doing all of this, you need to map that thing you are doing to how it's going to drive leads into your sales funnel. Then Backlinko says it's the practice of producing and distributing content. You see, Backlinko is an SEO platform, so it's all about putting out content as engaging as it can be, as many as it can be, and how they can use it to draw people into their sales funnel. So this is how they see content marketing, and then they see it as something to build brand awareness. So definitely when people are aware, they are triggered to visit your site. So that's where you get traffic from. And then when you get to your site, you have a lead magnet or something to get their contact details, and they become your leads. Then when they are now in touch with you, you can send them SMS, you can send them emails, you organize webinar, you can invite them, then you can start selling to them. And these are other definitions of content marketing that I find interesting. Basically, when you have the slide, you can go through them. So I have some examples that are picked for case studies that I would like us to go through. So there are three of them. I've actually broken down into different slides. So we'll be having them in between. So we'll take the first one now. But let me tell you why I picked these three. So Facebook, they had a program that they started last year as a follow-up to the pandemic in 2020, trying to get the cost of small businesses, and now they can help them. And then they came up with a kind of particular product, or they optimized a particular product for small businesses based on their experience during the pandemic. So now we're moving to data part of content marketing now. So that's an example. We also have MailChimp, we also have Twitter. So all of that and this. Then HubSpot, if you have ever used HubSpot before, they have a lot of free resources that they use to excel. So their own content marketing is not just doing videos, right? They actually create very useful tools. Let's say, for instance, now you use their free CRM. Because they've gotten your email and they know you use CRM, they always look at the kind of business you have. Of course, when you want to download or you are signing up for the CRM, they ask you some specific questions about your business, which will help them know the kind of business you have. And then that will not determine the kind of emails you'll be getting, the kind of resources that they are going to be sharing with you. So let me just show you an example now. So the good ideas deserve to be found. One of the examples from Facebook. So let's see what they did. Then I'll now explain how they arrived at this particular video shortly.
Hi, Adeyemi, can't hear the video. Adeyemi, can you hear us? We can't hear your video.
Yeah, the video is mute.
Yeah.
Sorry? The video is mute. Wow. How is it now?
Still can't hear it. Just play.
Wow. All right.
Share the link
Basically,
after.
yes, the link is in the slide. So when you have the slide, you can always watch the video. But then, how did Facebook arrive at this? So they call the marketing approach, or what they developed, as good ideas deserve to be found. And then the reason was this. So there was a report in 2020 of how small businesses are coping with the effect of pandemic. So they looked at how they can help small businesses advertise better on Facebook. So now, when you're talking about data-driven content marketing, now this is a good example because they can always develop as many products as they want. They have the infrastructure to do that, but they wanted to know how the pandemic has affected small businesses, and then they found out that personalized ads is going to help them to advertise better. And they found out that it gains more traction. So if you actually watch that video, is they use different small businesses to create the ad. So to tell other small businesses that you can actually create an ad with yourself at the center, showing people around your business and all of that. So it's an initiative that highlights how personal ads are an important way people discover small businesses on Facebook and Instagram, and how these ads help small businesses grow from an idea into livelihood. So why did they have to do that? So Facebook learned that small businesses were facing the greatest challenge of their lifetimes, right? With 47% saying they might not survive the next 6 months or were unsure. So this was as at 2001, like mid 2021 rather. Like they were not sure they were going to survive. So Facebook had to come up with that personalized ad option for them. So they could advertise on a platform that is cheaper and use their business without having to like have a production team and all of that. So I also put a link to the report there so you can check. So in terms of, so I also put data in, there to support that. So in terms of the kind of ideas or the kind of content that B2B marketers have done in the past 12 months. So this also was done sometime last year. So we see that they had short articles, they have post less than 3,000 words. Some of them did videos, some of them did virtual events. If you look at these top 3 ideas that people do, if you look at the top B2B platforms, this is basically what they have been doing. You also have other video ideas that you can use as time goes on. So now about things that are really, really different between content marketing for B2B and content marketing for B2C. So when you're doing B2B now, so you have 3 things that are different that you need to put into your strategy. So you have the decision makers, right? You have the purchase journey, then you have the marketing channels. So let's look at each of them one by one now. So for the purchase journey, what I'm basically saying is the consumer journey, for instance. So for B2C, in most cases, you're selling to consumers. So you have a shoe store online that you sell shoes. It's easy to set up, even if you don't set up an ad, you post. Then Instagram is telling you that this post is performing better than all your posts in the last 2 weeks. You should boost it. Once you put some money and boost it, more people are going to see it, and somebody can discover your product from there and decide to buy. You've made a sale, you've moved on. But B2B is not always like that. So what are you going to most likely witness? So B2B follows mostly complicated request to approval process. So you should know that you have a request process to approval, and then you will need to continue to market to them. And this is an example of, so you start a conversation with somebody on LinkedIn. There has to be something that follow up that conversation. Whether it's going to be a meeting, you are going to be in their office to have discussion. There are some that even meet outside of office and all of that. Then they have a CEO or a chairman who doesn't know about your company. If you do not have any content or ad or blog that can market to other decision makers or people that can approve that request, then each time you meet those guys, you have to be introducing your business. Right? So this is what I'm saying here, basically, that it's a very complicated process. While you're speaking to the immediate people that you can reach, you also need to have a plan for the bigger picture. So people who are not like within your space, your sphere of influence, that will still be involved in that business decision. There has to be something that will educate them. Unless you see a situation where you presented to somebody, they say it's good, then they call you back next week. Oh, come and present to our CPO. 2 weeks later, come and present to our CFO. It's because they probably don't know your company and they've not seen anything you've done before. So that is what I'm saying. So typically involves problem solver, gatekeeper. We're going to break down some of these things later on. But I'm basically giving you the type of segment, the segment of people you are going to find, and different people will be in these roles for different companies. Then you definitely requires an approval at different levels, right? So you have technical people, you have administrative people, you have financial people, you have logistics people, depending on the kind of product. And if you look at it, the tone that you are going to be using to market or talk to these people is not going to be the same thing. So technical person, for instance, for like that talent marketplace, I'm probably talking to a software developer. So the lingo and the things you are going to say in your message, you are reaching out to the person, it's going to be at least a bit technical. You need to show that you even understand their business, or you even understand what it means to hire a developer for them to even listen to. So when you're talking to an administrative person, they're probably looking in terms of operations and stuff. Then you have to start thinking in terms of how does that developer solve problem for them. Is it going to help them build a product? Is it going to help them with their MVP? Is it going to be adding new features for them? So what tech stack? So the skills that the developer has, how is it going to improve their business at the end of the day? Then when you're talking about finance, now you've gotten to procurement or finance or whatever, then you are now talking in terms of cost. How much is the developer going to be earning? How competitive is that to them? And then how much are you going to be charging as a platform or the hiring company or the platform that is hiring for them? Then you have all the financials and all of that. So that's that. But B2C is not like that. It's always simple. It's always straightforward. It's just the buyer you are marketing to, except for like maybe family things. So we are selling family-related products. We are probably going to have the mother or the woman of the house making the final decision, even if it's the daddy that is going to pay. Most likely, it's the woman that will recommend to daddy to pay. That's the only case where you may have two or three people deciding for you when it comes to B2C. And they may not necessarily require approval of anybody if it is B2C. So I'm trying to give you, now give you an example of what the typical process is. So for some companies, it's like this, for some companies, it's not. But every business has their, they have their procurement process. They have a way where when you come into their system, where you are going to start, whether they raise a ticket for you, you send an email or whatever it is. So there's a place where you are going to trigger the request to let them know that, okay, so I have identified this problem that you want to solve. There's a review process. That is where presentation comes in. So they invite you, maybe you do a Zoom, you do Google Meet, or they invite you to their office. That's the review. Then they have the purchase decision when they now go. Then you now hear, okay, my team are going to decide, then we'll get back to you. So when the team that are going to use your solution decide, then they go to the administrative and the other group of people. Then they now get back to you. Then there's the engagement part. Then you have procurement reaching out or from other department reaching out to you to discuss and see how your solution affects them or how they can be of support to you. Then in this once you get past that, then you start having relationship management. So you are the marketer now, you've introduced them to the company, the finance has reached out, your finance is speaking to them, then maybe now move on to sales or the people that will onboard them. Then you are handing them over to other people. While you are getting other businesses, you still need to be managing relationship between both parties. And then at the end of the day, if they buy from you, how are they able to consistently buy? So that is an example of a typical B2B process and different channels that you can reach out. So yes, I know a lot of people are already familiar with this. For B2C, you have the usual top funnel, the middle of the funnel, the different channels that you can use to reach out to people for B2C. So in terms of now the decision makers, now the B2B decision makers. So we've talked about the purchase journey, how you are going to navigate it from one channel to the other. Now to now talk about the B2B decision makers themselves. So now B2B buying decisions spread across various levels of seniority and department, right? We've mentioned that earlier on. So this means for you to make a sale, you may need to communicate with on the average of 2 to 8 from my experience, right? In most cases, let me see, I probably been involved with about 4 people on the average to make a particular sale. So let me give you an instance. So somebody wants to do SEO, for instance. Oh, okay. So I saw your blog or I saw your website. I saw that you do SEO and all of that. Can we talk about it? Okay, I said, okay, send me your website. Do a quick assessment. So at that level, I'm talking to the person. So by the time you do a proposal, you do a strategy. So this is how we are going to solve the problem. So they invite you for a meeting. So at that meeting, you probably have 4 to 5 people. Then after that meeting, then you have another discussion, maybe cut down to 3 people. Then you get to finance and all of that. So that's basically what I'm saying. And in some corporations, man, you can have more than 8 people, depending on the size of the business. And then, so what should be your content marketing strategy? So having understood all of these things, all of these requirements, so how do you come up with a strategy? How do you transition all of this journey? So now, what would be the place of data in developing and executing your content marketing strategy? So now, these are the 5 things that I've seen from people who have sold to me and people that I've sold to over the years. These are the things that I've seen that is going to work, get the attention of people when you're reaching out to them. So one, you need to identify the problem that you're solving or the need that they have. That is the thing. So if you're reaching out to people in most cases and you're just talking about your product, oh, I'm Adeyemi from this, the help companies hire software developers, blah, blah, blah. And it's not, that is not their problem. Their problem probably is, so let me give you an instance now. So there's a company just raised funds, they raised $5 million. So at that point, they raise that money because they want to expand. So expanding means they probably build new products, they'll have new features to their product, or they want to expand their market, they want to get more people. So for me, once I see a company that raises money like this, I know they are going to be hiring developers. That one is standard. Whether they are hiring immediately or they be hiring in 5 years or 5 months' time, because that money given to them is for expansion, and they can't expand with that engineer. I'm going for them straight up. So that's an example of identifying the problem. And when I'm going after them, after understanding the kind of products they have. Is buy now, pay later, is e-commerce, is travel, is what it is. I need to understand their platform first, and then have an understanding of what role my developer or whoever I'm hiring for them is going to play for them. So the next thing is evaluating how your offering solves the problem or meets the need. So I'm hiring for them. This is what the person I'm bringing for you is going to help you do. So when you talk in terms of that solution, it's just like starting from somebody's side of the fence before you move to your own. Then effectively communicate your offering as a solution. So which means when this developer comes in, you guys can now have an MVP, you guys can now have a better product or a product that has more features, or you guys can now maybe solve some of the problems or work on some of the feedback that you've gotten from people who have been using your product. Then communicating the value your offering brings to the table in concrete terms. It's always very useful. I have an example that I'm going to show you after this that uses some of these things. Then you trigger next steps. That too has to be very, very has to be a key part. So when you reach out to the person, maybe you want to offer them something, maybe a meeting, or you have a demo, or you have a resource that you want to share with them. That next step is always very important. And it's just like you watching a YouTube video. In most cases, if the person does not tell you to like, you may not like. If the person does not tell you to comment, you may not comment. You even see a subscribe button flying over the video once in a while. So it's just triggering that, okay, so if you like this video, do A, B, C, and D. It's the same thing with B2B. When you're reaching out to people or you're even creating an ad, there has to be a next step basically to that. I really wish this can go full screen at this point so that you guys can see this. So now this is an example. This is an example of what I'm saying with regards to I'm using these 4 points, right? These 5 points, basically. So this is somebody reaching out to me to sell an affiliate program, a partnership program to me. So the person has gone through my site, the person has seen that, okay, so I teach, I have some training courses, I have some educative blogs and things that I've done in the past, and it thinks, okay, so we have a program that help teachers sell their course, or teachers or people who make money from teaching can create course and sell through our platform. Then the person is proposing a kind of partnership to me, and then it's telling me that they have 120,000 people already selling on their platform, and I can use their platform to sell ebooks, courses, coaching memberships, and other types of digital products. So the person is talking in terms of what exactly I can sell, and to me, I can already figure out how that is going to help me. It's just like, for instance, when I record this course, and then I now edit it, put some text and all, and then I go and upload it. I already have a course. Then I start pushing people there to go and subscribe and take the course. So that's basically. And in terms of concrete terms, now what do we offer? So 50% of all sales with demo account, then custom collaboration opportunities. So that is the number 4, communicating value in concrete terms, right? Then the last one is triggering next steps. So now hear what the person says. So once I see your application come through, I will approve you right away, right? It's just telling me that I'm on standby, and I signed up, right? And immediately I signed up, it did that and sent me. And the funny thing is, this thing can even be auto email. It can be automated. This message that you see, you probably send it by himself, and every other interaction you have are automated, because they know that once you sign up, there's a follow-up email that is going to come. But then, while you are reaching out, all of these elements are really, really important in getting people to act, not that you just read your message. And then you can see the data part that the person has used in terms of giving me the numbers, in terms of giving me the actual product. So in my head, I can see. So you see, we have 4.5 rating on Trustpilot. So I can go and check them just to see that how much confidence people have in their platform. So it clears my doubt regarding whether they are authoritative or they are credible if I put my course there to sell. So now I'm trying to break down the decision makers they are most likely going to find and who they are, so that when you are interacting with them, you have an idea of the role that person is playing, so you can properly talk to them. So for users, these are the people that are going to use the solution. Because sometimes you are talking to somebody in the company, you may know the person, but they are not the one that they are going to use your solution. You still have to ask. So if the person you are talking to is not the user, you need to request to be introduced to the person. So there's a user, then there's an initiator. Initiator is like somebody that is in charge of using of that product. So for instance, now like that talent marketplace now, for instance. So maybe I'm talking to the senior developer. In this case, is the person supervisor, maybe head of engineering or HR. That's the person that is going to talk to finance or report to the CEO over the decision that this user needs to make. So in some places you find gatekeeper. These are like the assistant to this, assistant to that. Different companies have different titles for these people, but there are people that if you don't treat them well, you cannot get to the final decision maker. If you have gone to government offices before and you want to see a permanent secretary or you want to see a director, you know how many people you are going to see before you see that director. And even when you've done all your work, you pass through every stage, it could be the secretary to that permanent secretary that will destroy everything that you are doing or will just block you. If you don't behave nicely to the person, or the person just doesn't like you. So those gatekeepers are very important when you're putting out your message. In fact, you can even do something, you can even do a whole marketing thing around that just to celebrate them or you. There are different ways you can actually handle these people, but then you need to identify them and acknowledge the fact that they are there. Then you have blockers. There are some people that maybe your solution will cost them more money. Maybe your solution will threaten their position. You have to be mindful of these people so they will always be looking for different ways to cut you off or different ways to make the company not to buy from you. Then you have the influencers. Now these are the people that are actually going to recommend. So like these IRS that I'm talking about now, in most cases is the chief technology officer. That's the person in charge of engineering and every other thing. So if they don't have CTO, they have head of engineering or they have VP engineering or VP of product VP product and innovation and all of that. So this is the person that will now say, okay, we've gone through finance have reviewed, everybody is fine. Okay, so the CEO can approve, or whoever it is that usually approve money to be paid. Then you have the final decision maker, the person that signs the check that will tell them to pay you. So let me give you an actual example now. So for the talent marketplace, the user are usually the engineering team or the senior developer or the product team, the team that are developing products in that company. So I know who are the people that they are going to use the solution that I'm bringing forward. So the initiator in most cases are the HR managers, the admin, the chief operations officer who are in charge of business operations, the CTO or the senior developer. Then you have the gatekeeper. You have some people that they are not the manager. There are some HR people that are probably the one that be setting up meetings, calling you to follow up on all of that. These are the gatekeepers. If you don't attend to them well, or you don't even talk to them in the way that they like, they can always cause problems for you at some point. Then you have the blockers, people who want to minimize costs, people who want to minimize overhead eventually. It's not like they don't like you or they want to stop you from selling. It's just their duty. That's their own duty to that company to maximize resources. And you have to look at what you're offering in terms of that. Then you have the influencers, you have the CTO, you have the advisors. I've had situations where it's like the co-founders that reach out. Maybe the co-founder is my LinkedIn connection, my LinkedIn contact. I reach out, we have discussion, they introduce me to the CEO and then the CTO. Then after having discussion, doing presentation, then they say, okay, well, then they copy the HR or something. That is like moving from the top to the bottom. And in most cases, you come to the engineering team, then they recommend you to the CTO or your talent go and interview with the CTO, then start discussing finances and all of that. So this is like the typical decision-making process that you are going to have in that. So after identifying your audience, the people you are selling to, the people you are creating content for, or the people you need to market to, then you need to qualify them. So this is when you actually know if you are going to have a sale, or the person is just an opportunity, or the person is a prospect. So different companies have different ways that they usually categorize these people. So some they have audience, then they have prospect. No, they have audience, they have opportunity, they have prospect, and they have leads. They have warm leads, then they have sales. Depending on how you categorize it, when you have your own sales funnel and you define each of these people and their level of engagement. So now this is how you are going to know whether you are speaking with the right person. This person can actually help your career. Yeah? So you have budget. You need to know if they have money, or they are ready. They maybe they have money, or they are planning to raise money, or there's even budget for that solution they are offering to sell. It's going to be very difficult. No matter how beautiful or great your marketing is or your content is, if there's no money, they probably beg you to do it on credit, or they tell you to be paying you small. If that works for you, fine. But you need to ascertain that there's budget for at least that solution. Then the authority, like I gave you the breakdown, you have the user, you have the initiator, you have the influencer, you have the decision maker. So you want to know the person's level. And I'm going to show you questions that the questions you can ask to qualify all of these stages. So you need to know the person's authority. I've seen emails like somebody sending email. I've been sending email concerning your blog for 6 months. You have not replied me. If there's somebody you need approval from, can you please introduce me? And I'm like, even if I want to introduce you, this kind of email is annoying. I'm not going to introduce you. Of course, it is my blog, it is my company. I don't need anybody's approval. But sometimes they feel like maybe you are not the person in charge. That's it. You even see some people asking you, are you the person in charge? Are you the person I can talk to? You know, stuff like that. They are just trying to know the level of authority of the person that they are talking to. And it is very important, but there has to be a nice way. There has to be better ways of you asking all of this. Then you need to acknowledge or identify the need. The need is then the timing. Is it the right time for them? Like the example I gave your company is wasting money. I know that the next thing is always expansion. Whether you have partnership or you even roll out a product, or you are talking about moving from MVP to adding more features and all of that. I always know that this is the right time to get this kind of talent, then I'm coming for you straight up. So in terms of how do you know whether they have budget, whether the person is in the right level, on the right level of authority to approve or to at least speak for you? These are questions that you can ask. So I give you an example of some of the questions that you can ask. So do you have a set budget allocated for this specific solution? How much are you currently spending? So this is always very common. When you ask somebody, how much are you currently spending on this? Just so that you have an idea of whether Bukayo will really understand it most times when you're talking to somebody, maybe what you are proposing to them will cost 3 million, 5 million, and their marketing budget is usually 100,000 or 150,000. So you quickly knows at that point that maybe I should not even bother myself, or there's something smaller that I can propose that if they adjust their budget, they can get. Then have you ever had to invest in a solution beyond hair? So in a situation where you've seen that, you've asked this question, they've told you their budget, then you now want to know whether it is possible. So all of these things, you are beginning to gather data to make your presentation or to do your proposal. When you ask all of these questions, you are beginning to get data, which you can use to create your content, or you can use to create your ad, or you can use to do your presentation, or whatever it is that you need to do as the next step. So asking all of these questions help you to gather some information, some insights that you can use. Then the authority, who will be using our product and all of that. When was the last time you bought? So when you ask when was the last time, and the person says no, I've not, then you know it's not the person that is going to use it. You know, sometimes you are reaching out to somebody and the person likes to feel important. Then they'll be answering you as if they are the one in charge. They are not. But when you ask them this question, when was the last time you bought? And they can't tell you specifically, you know, maybe you still need to talk to 2 or 3 more people to actually get to where you're going. So what is your contribution to the decision-making process? So instead of asking the person, I use the person in charge, which can be very annoying sometimes. You can ask the question like this: what is your contribution to the decision-making process? So in terms of the need, what are the top challenges? That is, in some cases, you've seen it, because this is part of the research you're supposed to do. But sometimes you want to, okay, so I want to hire an engineer for you, and they're like, oh, okay, yes, we are hiring engineers, but then we actually need head of data science at this point, or we need a QA engineer. That is like the most important thing for us now. This hiring thing can still take 3 months or 2 months, but we need QA engineer like today. Then you have to start looking for or start proposing QA engineer to them. So that is the challenge that they have right now. Although your solution is very relevant, but the needs that they have, the most pressing need they have right now, is the QA engineer. Then you can also ask them what other solutions have you had, just to know that, okay, maybe the current company they are working with or the previous platforms they've used, maybe they have certain challenges that you can use to pitch to them. Oh, okay, so if they say, oh, it took time for this to happen, or the person left for 3 months, and then you don't even want to work with companies like that again, because then you can tell them, so in my own case now, oh, okay, we hire for you now, don't worry, we are with you for the first 90 days. We will always replace the talent. If the person leaves in the first 90 days. So you already know the challenges that they've had, the previous solutions, then you can give them ways that you can help them, or you can do things better. Then in terms of timing, is there a time frame that you wish uh, um, to follow? Like, how long does it take you? There are some companies that have what do they call it now? 60 days. Some have 90 days, even when they approve now before they pay you. So is this something you can offer and get money for in 90 days? Or is this something they have to pay part of it? So all of these things, you need to know the time frame and how they do it. Then giving your timeline, we may have to finalize our agreement by this. So you want to put a date to see whether they can actually work your time too. So all of these things are data that you are going to put into it. So now this is another example that I find really interesting, that they use data. I'm wondering if the video issue has been resolved now. Let me see, because I really don't know why it's like this. This is quite strange. Let me see. So this video basically is for any luck with the sound.
No. No. I think you can just send the link. Since we send
Yeah, so the
since
link to the video.
everybody after
Yeah,
the class.
so the link to the video is in the presentation already. So okay, so let me just move to the reason behind this now this case study. So I wish you can really watch the video. So what basically happened is that so Keeper started as a bookkeeping app. They wanted to help SMEs, small businesses with um, accounting, keeping records of their expenses, their sales, and all of that. And then people start asking them for things like invoice, things like other solutions, and then they start adding. Then at some point, they got feedback that okay, so after all of this, now I have my invoice, I have my record, I have. Sometimes I want to pay bills. Like as a small business, I have regular payments I make on a monthly basis, and I have to go and use another to go and make the payment. Can you just put all of these things in one place? And then people had to add a payment feature. So that was when they did that app that I was trying to. Okay, so maybe I should just let me do this and play. Let me play. Let me play. Let me play this. Oh no. Let me play this. Let me play the video. The problem with the presentation is the slide is not inside Chrome, and because it has videos inside, which I want to send to you guys, that's why we're having this problem. If I had uploaded the slide inside, so can you guys hear now?
No. We can't still hear.
This is what the village people.
Struggling to hear you.
I think it's fine for us to just take the videos after. So that we
Don't worry, I'm doing that now. You guys are going to see it now. What about now?
yeah, much better. We can hear now.
Okay. Yeah, so that is how they arrived at that. So moving from invoicing, bookkeeping, and all of that. So now it will interest you to see the journey, right? How they got to this. So I talked about people gathering data based on their based on feedback that they got from customers. They added the what do you call it? Added the payment feature as a response to that. So now let me now show you the data part. So you can see they actually went out after getting all of those responses from some of their customers using the product. So they now went out to ask business people, small business people, basically, to ask them their opinion about online payments, the challenges that they are going through, and all of that. Just trying to validate.
Do you like online payments?
What they are adding?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Actually, I do like online.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Online payments? No.
Yeah, sure.
No.
To be frank, I won't lie to you guys. I don't really like it.
How do you collect your payments from customers?
Cash and transfer.
So cash, transfer, and POS.
Well, I prefer cash.
Yes. So because of time, right? I'm just showing you how they went out, sampled opinions of different people. So imagine these guys that have gone out to talk to.
I prefer cash.
Transfer, POS, or cash.
Transfer.
So imagine people that have gone out to talk to these guys, and they've said, okay, so I prefer this, I prefer that, and then when they now had payment to it, they are now going back, right? To tell these guys, so we've actually added payment to our platform. Now this is how you can use it. Do you understand? So it's going to be easier for them to sell because they've already identified the need, they've validated it. And when they are now making the add on the payment, it's because they have studied, they've done their desk work, they've gotten responses from people using the product. Then they also went out to people who are not using the product, and they also get their feedback. So that I find really interesting as well. Before we jump into the other part, I wouldn't know whether we have questions that we should attend to before going forward. Or can I proceed?
Is it question time now?
Yes, it is, Williams. You can shoot.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask a question. So my question is concerning the B2B space. I don't know if you can answer a question generally on B2B. My question is generally on B2B, not on B2B tech. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just ask anyway. I'll ask anyway. So, it's, for example, if there is like a middleman that have access to the business, like for example now if you are into supermarkets, there are suppliers. Supermarket usually have suppliers, so these supermarkets they deal with the suppliers. It is the suppliers that they deal with that determine the kind of goods that they will sell in their supermarket. So I was wondering, is it better? How do you target suppliers in terms of in the B2B? Because in this case, it's kind of still a one-man. It feels like it's a B2C, even though it's a B2B, because you are targeting one person, although you are targeting one person to meet a B2C. So I want you to shed some light on whether there is a difference in approach in that.
Okay, I think that this is a typical case of either having a gatekeeper or we have them as influencer. So these people are human beings too, right? So depending on the scale you want to go. So it's either you want to consider meeting them in person, if it is possible to have that conversation. So there are some conversations to take offline when it comes to B2B, really, to be realistic. After you've done your work, digital and all of that, the business is satisfied and you've not gotten that go ahead, or you're not getting the support from that middleman. For instance, so let me give you an instance of an approach, although this was applied to a B2C company. So it was a B2B problem, but then we used a B2C to solve it. So there was this baby food product I was working on in 2020. So they had arrangement with wholesalers. So they had businesses that are distributors to them. So because of territoriality, right? So I have a big store in Magodo. I'm one of the major distributors. I'll be stopping this company from supplying small shops, all the corner shops in my area. I will not let the company sell to them, right? There were some wholesalers that kind of raised money for them when they started. So those ones had that authority to determine where they can sell to and where they cannot sell to. So at that point, they got stuck. So, and then I had this conversation with the CEO, and the CEO was like, so what can we do? Okay. So the thing was, let's build a bridge over these guys. So we used digital. We used digital to do what? To reach out to consumers straight up. So we set up digital ads, Google ads, Facebook, and all of that. So they see how their relationship with these guys, but people were able to order online through the website. So that was the solution we used. There was a B2B problem, was a problem that we're having with other businesses. These middlemen or middle women will not allow them sell to the small retailer. So then when we ran out, nobody could stop that. Then they started getting orders from Jos, from Anambra, from different places, and then they start doing nationwide delivery. So for this one, so there are different ways. If there's a way you can find these guys, maybe through LinkedIn, or there's a kind of content or art that you can create. There's even something that someone used to do. Somebody used to do personalized video. There's a video you can actually do to address this person. Or just, maybe it's the person's birthday, the person is getting married, or there's something you know about that person that is interesting. Make a video about the person and send to the person. There's somebody that used to do this one shoe thing. If he finds out that somebody is blocking him or something, he will buy a good shoe, send that person one leg out of the shoe, and you put a note there. So once you see the issue, I'm the one that sent it. If you like to get the other leg, let's have a meeting. So there are different ways that you can use to at least warm up to those people, basically, for you to be able to get. But in terms of reaching out to them in mass, maybe digital can help you, right? Maybe LinkedIn or Instagram. If there's a kind of ad that you think, based on what you know that they like, or the kind of things you think they'll be interested in. So you can use ads to target people like that on digital, but if you don't think digital will work, then it has to be something you have to explore some guerrilla marketing ideas. Or now you can actually reach out to these people. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, thank you very much.
Any other question before I move on to the next slide? I think we are even always okay. So let's just move on. So now coming up with a strategy now. So I've done my bits to break down the whole process and things you need to have and things you need to know. So now finding why you are doing B2B, like the example we get now is actually, so at this stage, the business is in configuration. He has already reached out to the business. It's just one person that needs to approve or support him for him to be able to sell. So you're already in consideration. Then you have to think of what can you do to move to the next stage, which is to make sales. So different companies are going to do content marketing, B2B content marketing for different reasons, whether it's for awareness, whether it's for consideration, for conversion or engagement. So for awareness, you want to build your brand for more people to know you and all of that. Then you have brand recognition. There are companies that they don't even know you at all. Do you understand? There are companies, there are places that they don't know you. There are companies that only one person in the company knows you. You have to create that awareness, general one, so that at least when you are talking to people in that company, they can know you. And then you also build top of the mind awareness. So while you are going through all of this process, marketing to people one-on-one, there has to be something that is also remarketing to them or telling them about your company outside of that space where you're having the conversation. So consideration, you have demand creation. So you have to sometimes look for things that will trigger people to use your product. Let's say for instance, people who do webinars. You see people who sell, people who do this service, slimming tea, add weight, add this. They do free webinar. They show you examples. Sometimes you don't even think of using stuff like that. But because you have attended the free, okay, so like there's this one that I usually see now, exporting webinar, how to export. And so many times it has made me consider and whether I want to start selling or buy stuff and start exporting. That is that kind of demand creation approach you can have as a B2B person. And it is the content that you are going to use to start. There has to be some form of resource you are going to create for your target audience that will draw them in before you now start selling to them. Then employer branding. This is for companies that are really big, companies that are big on the kind of people that work in their company, right? So employer branding is very important. And you see companies like General Electric, companies like Facebook, some companies like Nike and the rest of them. They really take what people think about them seriously. They take what employees think about them seriously. So they take their employer branding seriously. You see some companies when somebody joins, they do they do social media posts. You see the CEO welcoming them. There's a company, one of my colleagues that plugged a year in an FMCG company, and the CEO actually congratulated them for spending 1 year in the company. That's part of employer branding. A company like UBA, I think their top management people, maybe when their birthday, wedding anniversary, and stuff like that, they put up posts for them. That's also part of something you can look out for. Then, in order to get partnerships and also, there are so many different reasons you can have. You can do. You can create your content marketing strategy to do. Then, in terms of the goals, the objectives that people always use content marketing for. In B2B, you have brand awareness and not just like this is just data supporting some of those goals. So the top 3 goals that people have used, businesses have used content marketing for to create brand awareness, build credibility and trust. Trust is really, really important, especially for B2B. I've had some cases like that you go through the entire process and the only reason the company is not going to hire is because they don't trust the talent to perform. I've had cases like that. It's very painful. I even see instances where the developer that wants to work with the talent to say, yes, I want him, the guy is good. And the HR will be like, no, we don't trust this person to stay with our company. It doesn't fit into our culture. He has not worked in a company like ours before. You have stuff like that coming up. So that trust is really, really important. And how do you build trust? You have to, when you're creating content that is saying A, don't go and be doing B. So if you are positioning as a welcoming company, a company that is warm, that allows people in and all, when you reach out to people or when you visit them or you have meetings, you don't want to be too serious and all of that. So you need to build trust, and then you need to really educate your customers. Sometimes they make decisions based on what they know. And this part is not always sexy. Forgive my French. It's not always sweet because you're spending a lot of money educating people. Some of them will buy, some will not buy, but that education is really, really important. And there are sometimes you are doing presentation and they're asking you questions. After explaining to them, it's something you created FAQ for, or you have video or something that they can use. You can only share the link to them so that they can go and read them. So education is really, really important. So in terms of brand building now, I just gave some few tips. On how why you should actually be mindful of your brand online. So when you are posting, you are doing your content marketing, the way you position yourself as a company is really, really important because you need people to trust you to be able to do business with you. So brands are all about trust. That trust is built in love and lost in buckets. So I think there was an instance of one company some time ago that people were saying some management staff was having affairs with married people and all of that. They had to do PR, they had to do some image, some damage control as a result of that. Recently, there was a tech company too that were allegation against, I think the CEO or whatever, and then they start having to manage it and all of that, getting the former CEO to speak and things like that. Your brand is very important to what you're selling because sometimes it's not like your marketing is bad. It's just that people don't know you or trust you enough. That's why they are not buying as business to business. So building your brand creates trust. Trust builds relationships. Relationships build business. Right? So that's how it works. An authentic or trustworthy brand is one customer. So when you get to a stage where people actually likes you as a brand, you don't need marketing to those people again. You probably need to market to other decision makers in that company, and they'll be the ones speaking for you. wants to get to that stage that they really trust your brand and they are willing to buy as a result of that. So a B2B tech company that wants to sell consistently, to consistently sell with or without promos to build brands that clients love to do business with. So until you get to this stage, you probably have to pitch every time before you can sell. Until you build that brand that people really trust and then they love business with, and they love to do business with. So in terms of where to start now, so you want to create a strategy now. How how do you start? Where do you start from? So you need to start from your audience personas, right? You need to understand the background or the profile of these people you'll be selling to. So I already give you an instance of my own talent marketplace and all. So for other services, now let's say for SEO, for instance, in most cases is the CEO that I talk to, especially for small businesses. So it is when you have told the CEO, then they can introduce you to the web developer or the webmaster, or they introduce you to the finance or the admin people that you are going to work with, or if they have in-house content person, or they have in-house content developer or whatever, then they introduce you to the person, then you start working with them. So you need to understand. So who will benefit from our content? Identify your primary audience. Then you move to positioning and brand storytelling. The truth is, a lot of brands do not even have a particular story about them. Only few brands have story about them that we all can remember. And if you talk about so when you mention companies like Nike now, like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, they always have a story to tell, and they have a brand positioning that they've taken over the years. And when they change it, you always do. For instance, now MTN, over the years, they are a telecom company. They have their everywhere you go and all of that. Then they rebranded into a tech company because they want to add new products and all of those things. So they have to change their logo and then their slogan from everywhere you go to yellow. So we used to be this. Now this is who you are. They didn't completely move away from what they have. They just refreshed their brand. They rebrand and they now have the positioning of a tech company. And if you look at their speak on social media and some of their content since they rebranded, you see that there's a difference in it. The kind of micro influencers they've been working with is different in these couple of months that they rebranded, and their competitor too is preparing to be 20 years old. They too are going to rebrand. Hopefully, sometimes in the year, you guys can watch out for that. But basically, that is how it is for your content marketing journey. And even this MTN, so they still have other things that they are working on, probably over the months that they are still going to bring. That it's going to be a little bit techy, a little bit friendly, that millennials can also relate with. And so that's it in terms of brand positioning. Then in terms of your content marketing mission, there has to be something you want to achieve. Why are we creating content, and how can it help our audience? So there has to be objective, which I'm already giving you, whether it's for awareness, it's for consideration or not. So it's just you putting all of those things I've told you before in each of these blocks. Then you have to have a business case, especially if you are pitching to somebody that needs to approve budget for you. There has to be a business case. If you're able to say whether it's going to get, when you say it's going to get traffic, so like how many web visits are we looking at? If you say it's going to get leads, now how many leads in a month or in 6 months or in a quarter can we be looking at? If this is specifically for getting leads. So if you say it's going to improve our sales, is that like a random figure that we can walk around for this? Then you need to have an action plan after that. So this is like the framework that you can start with, because your strategy will be different from everybody's strategy. So now, just to remind you, this is one thing I always encounter with people. So when they say they have strategy, in most cases they have very good ideas and some channels you want to deploy. So if this look a little bit complicated, don't worry, when you have the slide, you can read it. It's just a little bit of programming, explaining content marketing strategy and how strategy is different. So strategy is what you are going to do. Tactics is how you are going to do it. So it's something you can go and review your process. So even when you say you have strategy, is it something you are going to do, or how you are going to do that thing? So you can differentiate whether you're actually working with tactics or strategy. So when you have strategy, you have goals, which can be awareness or that or credibility or trust. Problem, oh, people really don't trust us. Oh, a lot of people know, but they don't buy. Oh, we have problem with delivery or not. There are sometimes you have product problem, not marketing problem. If you are using marketing to solve product problem, well, you may get some results, but that might not be effective. So you need to understand the problem. Then you have to do research, like that keeper situation now. After doing their desk work and learning from data, they still went out to ask people. Then you have a plan as a result of that. That is when you now get to tactics. What are you going to do to execute all of these things? So now moving into things that you need to do in terms of actions that you need to take with your content marketing strategy. You need to do research. I'll give you an instance of Keeper and how they did their research, and also for Facebook, how they did the report, which they use to inform their data-driven marketing. You need to segment your audience. Yeah, you need to know who is the user, who is the initiator, who is the influencer, and all of that, and different roles. So sometimes it's not the people, it's their offices, it's their roles that are very important for you. Then you need to understand their buyer's journey. You need to know whether you are starting from HR, after HR, who is the next person, after that person. So there's a company that typically they have tests. You have to do 2 tests at the beginning. Then the next thing you have culture fit. If you pass the test, then you do culture fit interview with the HR. Then a senior developer will be there. Then your last interview will be with the CTO. So you need to understand this is for my own one of my own clients that I'm working on, and that is their own journey. So you need to understand. So if you are selling to a company, you need to understand their buyer's journey and how you are going to navigate. And if you look at this thing, it's very complex and it has different channels. So when you are doing your content, you should understand that. Then distribution, you need to set business objectives. When you have the business objectives, you need to have marketing goals. Then you need to have metrics to track these marketing goals. So if you look at this dashboard, this is some people's dashboard, right? So to look at the different metrics that they count. Sorry, somebody needs to mute their mic. All right, it's fine now. So this is me just showing you different metrics that different companies, like these particular companies now, they know the sharing, they know their leads, how many leads they are getting, they know the what of each of the leads when they are making sales and all of that. You can even see the average time on page. There are seen companies like that they use CRM, right? So from the point you enter their website, you log into their website, the page you first visit to your last page, how long it took you, what page did you interact with on the site. So there are softwares like, I think, Crazy Egg and some other software that you can actually use to understand your website. So all of these things will come with investment over time, but then you need to understand if you have this level of detail, that is where you can now start talking about data-driven content marketing. So if you're creating awareness that a lot of people are visiting your site, you're probably going to see your traffic very high. But when you now look at the leads you're capturing, so a lot of people are not actually converting to leads. Then you have to look at the page that they are dropping off. This is even in analytics. If you look at your behavior or the cohort behavior on your analytics, you see the page that people are entering your website and where they are dropping off. So if you now see the particular page when they are dropping off, they are not getting to the product page, they are not getting to the service page, then you have to go and relook the page and how you can optimize that page. Maybe you want to add a button or you want to make a sticky button for your CTA so that every page that people are, they can click to become leads and stuff. So all of these things are very important. You are going to get them by listening to data and even having certain metrics that you are going to use to judge or to measure each of these things. Now, getting to actually drawing a strategy, I know probably some people have been asking that, okay, so if I want to create strategy now, so what am I going to do? So for your content strategy now, you need to have content pillars, ideas, and formats that you are going to use. So now this is how you can break it down. So for B2B now, you know, each of these users, initiator, and the rest of them, they have they have the same problem, but they have different perspectives. They are looking at this problem. Then they'll be asking different questions, although they all are trying to solve one problem. So, what is the problem? Now, this is the user wanting somebody to help them with so and so. So, this thing you look at education. So, if you're looking at creating content for users, then you look at education and thought leadership. Then what can you share? Maybe on your LinkedIn or your Instagram or whatever. Then you're looking at trends, benchmarks like milestone, what is happening in your industry, analysis, software development 101, digital marketing 101, how to guys, how other people are solving this problem. If you look at a company, now maybe there's a company that is very important to you, study their competitor, analyze their competitor and share with them. They will listen to you. It's just like I want to pitch to Glo. Now I've studied MTN. I have something that is really, really special about MTN that I've done. Maybe I've done research on MTN. And I now tell Glo marketing team that I've studied MTN for the past 2 years. This and this and this and this and this I've seen. Would you guys love to have a meeting? In most cases, they will say yes. Because it's very interesting. It's something that will interest them. They want to know what their competitor is doing better. You can use that to get to them. So that's an example. So how do I fix the problem? Then you're now looking at the initiator, the HR, the supervisors now, the people higher at that level. Then solution and then product suitability. Sometimes that's just the question people are going to do. Okay, so they want to see how your solution fits into their company. Or if it is something that when they introduce, they have to change the entire process. In most cases, if it's expensive, they say no. It's not because your product is not good, but because they may have to change their own internal process or structure to be able to use your product. Then you may have a problem with them. So what kind of content can you create for people like that? So what is the solution and how does the solution work? If there's something they have to do that is free to help them use your product better, then you have to research and present it to them. You don't wait for them to ask you. So once you know that it is possible that this thing will require them to get maybe an extra server or to get something different or maybe a new warehouse or something, then if you are the one now proposing to them that you are going to use this, so I think this will help you. These are free resources you can use without paying, or you can use this for a period of time, then later on then you can pay. Then solution comparison. So you have a lot of review websites and all of that. You can help them review different approaches that they can use, how people are already doing it and all of that. Then when you now get to the executive of the administrative level, then they start asking, are you right for me? Like, are you the right company to work with? So now this is when you start. I've had a pitch that after they've done all of those things, they said, we want to see credentials of your director. After they've won pitch and everything, they've agreed on budget and all. When it got to approving finance, the person that was going to approve said, I think the CFO or something, said, okay, bring the profile. I want to see the profile of their board, of their director, of their advisor. If they don't have any, I'm not going to approve this money because I need people at my level to be able to say that, okay, to give me that assurance. Once I see that they have this kind of people on their board, I will approve. Then maybe that is when your company profile now comes to play. Your company profile is still some form of content marketing. If you've seen some new company profile that are so sweet, and you see some company profile they are just tacky, they just look so. If you send such company profile that is more detailed, that doesn't show your team members and what you send it to a company like this, they always take directors' credentials before they approve. They will just throw you out. I think I've had a case like that too in the past. That me and my friend preached for something. That was some years ago. We went through the page. I think we were just two that were shortlisted. It was when we got to procurement. There was no director, there was nothing there. And that was where we dropped off. And the other agency got it. So the levels are always different, and the kind of content you do matters. So it tells you that everything you have to look at the process. You probably haven't looked at it from this direction before. Maybe going forward, you have to review your own strategy, how you present your company and all of that. And maybe if you don't have a director, you don't have an advisor, you might want to go and pitch somebody just in case you get to that position and then you are required to present it. So all of these things have to be in your approach, in your strategy and all of these things. And so another example that you can use, I'm also giving you, definitely when you get the slide, you are going to get this. So there are certain questions that you can ask to help you create a strategy. So who are you creating the content for? You need to explain. To explain who you are trying to reach with your content, their age, their gender. You see, this age and gender is very, very important. It is important a lot. So now, for in my own case, right, I've reached out to a CEO. He has introduced me to the HR. In most cases, the HR associates or the HR interns or the HR assistants are going to be millennials and Gen Zs. I can't talk to them the same way I talk to the CEO. Probably have to be more flexible, have to be more friendly in your emails, in your text messages. You don't want to sound bossy, even though you've gotten permission or approval of their bosses. You don't want to reflect that in your messaging to them, basically. So that's very important. If you always spoken with them on LinkedIn before, and maybe their boss now share their number with you, you need to send them text messages or reminders to do some tasks so that your own job can be approved. So the age and gender and the people you're actually working with, the interest, things they like. Sometimes you want to have conversations with them. You don't want to start straight up with business. You want to, if you already know their areas of interest, maybe their previous LinkedIn posts, their Instagram posts, maybe you even saw them on Twitter, just to warm up and the kind of things that you are going to be sending to them. And all of that. I've actually had a situation like that. I need the marketing director, and I went to him straight up. And eventually, the HR I was working with, I found out that so she was actually trying to do a course or something. I found the course I sent to her. And for some time, we started talking, started chatting, made things easier for me. Even when she had feedback that she would usually not send via email, she would tell me via WhatsApp conversation, then I can use that to improve my next messaging and whoever I'm going to reach out to in the company. So sometimes all of those things, they are still part of your content marketing strategy. Giving people free resources, it doesn't cost you money. It's just you looking for things that are going to be useful for them, that you can give them, that will make them feel that you really care about them and then they want to help you. Then what are you creating? Why are you creating your content? So awareness and all of that we talked about. So where will you publish this? So when you know the channel you are publishing your content it's going to help you in terms of creating. So we are creating video now. For instance, video you are going to create for YouTube will be slightly different from Facebook. So let me explain what I'm saying. So you are doing, okay, how to use this and this YouTube video. You record it the same way you edit it. But when it comes to Facebook, maybe you want to start with text and something. And the reason is, the timeline for Facebook is different. People are scrolling now. They are not looking for your video. But YouTube, in most cases, they are looking for your video or something similar to your video. Then YouTube suggests your video to them. So they have time to watch. But Facebook, they really don't have time to watch. It's probably going to be on autoplay. And some people have muted it. So they may not even hear your voice once your video pops up on their timeline. It is the text that will get their attention. Then they now click to now start watching. So video for all of this time is still the same video, it's still the same recording, but when you are rendering it, a little bit of here and there, a little bit of elements you need to move around to make each of these things, this video relevant for that channel. So the channel is really, really important. You need to look at this. Then what type of content will you now create? So list the types of content. There are different examples that I've shown you before. I'll probably see more examples. Then how will you create the content? Now, if you need to hire a content marketer, you need to work with a company that will do content for you. Maybe you are just going to buy content off somebody, pay the person to develop certain pieces of content, or you even work with somebody that on ongoing basis, you share your FAQ with the person uses it to create video, or you want to work with influencers or brand advocates or people within the industry just to create content about a particular problem and use it as a sponsor or use it as a case study. Sometimes all of these things work for you. And then in terms of distribution, so after you've done your content, you put it on the channel, you still have to promote it somehow. There are so many ways you can promote it. You have your own media, you have your earned media, you have your own paid media. So I just try to put them all in this block. You have news media, you have social media, then you have web, then there's PR, the general press releases using some certain website to put up your articles, Some people even do infographics. I've done it for a client before. They did a research, then they put it out on infographic. They use it as SEO. Then they still use that same infographics for PR. They did press release, over 200 websites published to some link to them, some did not link to them. And then eventually, so anybody that finds an infographic will find their PR or find their blog or find their website or find their social media page. Because once you see the infographic, their website is there, their social media is there, and all of these things. So all of these things too are part of it. And this is one way of using data. So when you do research, you don't want to write long reports. Infographics can summarize a 40-page report into one page for you, and you can use it. And you can also have video too. When you do a report like that, you may want to do a video following up to break down that report. Maybe you want to interview people to validate the findings of the report and all of those things. So this just like gives you different ideas and different channels that you can use to distribute your content. So I also do some key points based on some of the things that I've used myself that I want to share with you guys so that you guys can see it and see probably that some of them that you want to use. Now, so this is like, so all of this story that I've talked about now, this is something for like the CRM business. This is their own strategy. So you see the way they segment it. They have things they will do for awareness. They have things they will do for consideration. Sorry, are we on the same page? Oh, thank God. We're on the same page. What?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we are on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, thank God. Okay. So we have awareness, we have consideration, you have the stage where you want to close. And look at it now, they have stakeholders. So they actually started with this audience, which is really, really very smart, right? So they know the awareness stage, they're talking to CEOs and sales leaders. So they know the kind of content. So this is some data on its own. So LinkedIn have some publications that they do, what CEOs are reading, what CMOs are reading. You may want to go and subscribe to that. For me, what I use for this is report. I read a lot of reports. There are sometimes I'm not working. If you ask me what are you reading, what I do, I'll say I'm reading. You think I'm reading some book or something? I'm not reading book. I'm reading reports. And there are certain reports that I subscribe to. I'll probably share some with one of them with you that I usually use. When I want to make sales or I want to prospect, there are some reports that I usually go and read. So for me, and I know a lot of people read that report. So there are companies who take that report very seriously. There was a company that reached out to that my client some time ago. They do data. So they help them, they sell data to companies like government data, economic data, geographic data, and all of that. They build dashboards based on data on different economic factors that are affecting companies and people. Then they sell it to companies. So they have a monthly newsletter that they use. That's like their free product. So they were now reaching out to us to be a resource person. So they were talking about tech talent in Africa, the challenges of tech market, tech talent in Africa now is affecting startups. Then they reach out to us to come and be their resource person. So that one is on its own some marketing for us because the CEO will talk, we give insight, share some of our milestones, some of our achievements, some of the companies we've spoken with. And that kind of report is not even open for everybody. You still have to be subscribed to their data service to get that monthly newsletter. But for us, it's free. And then because we're participating at that level, they share the free reports, the monthly newsletter for that month. Because it was very rich. So you need to know what your audience are actually interested in. And you need to know what you are doing for them at that level that you are reaching out to them. So for these ones now, they're self-CRM. So they know that a lot of people like HubSpot, I'm used to using HubSpot. I know a lot of people use what do they call it now? Salesforce. I know some people use Salesforce. Some people, their own is an Excel sheet, right? But then this company sells CRM and they know that at the beginning of their sale, at the beginning of their marketing, they'll be speaking to CEO and sales leader. Then who are the influencers? Who are the people that are going to influence these people's decision? How do they find information and how do they consume information? So they have their peers and colleagues, they have service providers, they have vendors, they have industry analysts, they have industry events. Like this particular webinar we're having or this class we're having is some form of industry event. You probably see people in other companies and all of this stuff. and then you can start conversation. There's still one advertising industry night last night that a lot of people went to socialize with other people from other agencies and clients and stuff like that. Some people even create all these industry events on their own. I think there was a company that I was with then. I was doing business. I was in strategy and business development for them. We created a meetup then. So the essence of the meetup was to bring digital marketing and tech people together, both on client side and agency side. We discuss businesses, problems that marketers used to have, problems that business have when they work with marketing agencies. You see people calling out agencies, saying all of that. It was very hard. We used to have heartfelt conversations. So while we were creating all of that, the people we invited were enjoying themselves. The CEO of the company, while I was facilitating the meetup and talking with people and all of that, the CEO of the company is busy going around, exchanging cards with people and having conversations and taking selfies and all of that. We were using that one to build our sales pipeline. Then at some point we started podcast, but because everybody was busy, we couldn't follow through. But then the podcast team followed us. So the funny thing was, so we had that industry event to exchange contact and all. There's some people that I enjoyed that conversation. We know those people. Then we tell them we have podcasts too. We're actually building a podcast for ourselves, but we don't have enough episodes to roll out. Then would you be interested? And some of them were like, yes. Some of them came to record. Some of them scheduled their days to record and all of that before other things came up and stuff like that. So that is, imagine that industry event, then you move to podcast. Some people from that industry event, we get their emails, we send them the pitches or the company profile, we ask them for meetings and all. So it's different things for different people, depending on what your business does and all of that. Then what questions at this stage? So what is a CRM and why do you need? So in terms of content that this CRM company is going to create, you see the kind of questions that they are going to answer. Then in terms of search volume, how often are people actually searching for? So this is some kind of business case for them. So if they are going to spend $10,000 creating content of resources, because it's not everybody that was going to do one blog post and say they've done it, they've answered this question. Some of them will actually pay CEOs of other companies or certain influencers to create this content for them, and they want to know the value they can place on it. So if 150,000 people search, or there are 150,000 searches per month for this topic, maybe even if it's just 10% or 5% of that traffic, even if it's 1% they get on this particular traffic, we can see the kind of visits we can get from that. And that cuts across their consideration. So you see when it gets to consideration, now they have the same sales leader and sales manager. So you can see how the audience is changing and how the channels and the topic that they are doing is changing. So when it gets to close, they have the sales leader and the sales manager. And when it is time to now keep, in terms of retaining, building relationship, it is the entire sales team they are going to be building relationship with. And then this is also something in terms of this is also a tip for companies in terms of doing content. So this mostly is for companies that are already doing content marketing. So how you can actually review your content marketing processes or your content marketing strategy. So this is something that, okay, so you have to review. So sometimes you have people that already say, oh, we have a blog, we've been blogging, we've not been serious about it, we have social media, we have YouTube. So how will you review this for them? What will you tell them? You need to first know which part of your funnel is leaking. So that is what we have there. We have the awareness, consideration, comparison, and all of that. So all of these things that I tagged, that I put the numbers on, the same thing I have on the next slide. So these are the things you need to start doing, and these are the things you need to stop doing. So first, if it's a company that is already doing content marketing, or your company is already doing content marketing, and after this class, you want to go and look at how you can review it. First is know the content, the stage, your funnel, whether you are creating enough awareness, not getting enough leads. You're getting enough leads, but you're not closing enough. So you need to know your funnel, parts that is leaking. Then you need to target content and more than 2 people. So if you look at that CRM, so they had at least 2 people in mind for each of their content ideas that they were creating. So they were not creating content for everybody. They believe that this content will work for CEO, sales leader, marketing director. It doesn't always work like that. So when you're creating your content, at least 2 funnel stages or 2 target audience, target segments marked when you're doing it. Then identify all the players involved to make a purchase process, to make a purchase. Then use remarketing and content amplification. So, like what I said earlier on, so whether you are marketing via LinkedIn or reaching out to people one on one, explore other channels that when they are not talking to you, they can see you. Or other people within the company can also see your company to complement your own interaction or your own business that you are trying to build. Then things to stop. So there are people after all this discussion that we have had. I know some people that will go and create video and then they will get the video. If you don't do this, you will not see the video. If you don't do that, you will not see the video. It gets people tired. And I understand it takes a lot of money and resources, but then don't be too stingy with the resources. The more you can give, the more you're most likely going to get. And you see someone if you have too much, you want to download one PDF, you will probably answer like 20 questions before you can download it. That one, people will get tired and leave it. Then abandoning prospects and leave Ugo. So sometimes you're speaking with somebody and the person is not asking you. Maybe you leave the person alone for a month, then you come back. And when you're coming back, you're not coming back to come and be reminding them. Sometimes you want to come back with, I like this a lot. I'm coming with some resources or maybe some industry events or something that I know you may be interested in. Or I probably saw your LinkedIn post itself. And I know something that will be useful for you. That's what I'm going to use as a follow-up after a while that we've not spoken. I'm not going to come back and say, Oga, that thing you talked about, you did not call me again. Sometimes people feel annoyed and they don't even answer you again because they are human beings too. And what they may even be facing at that time is totally different from what you want them to do for you. But when you come and reignite the conversation or you want to restart the conversation, it's always good to come with something valuable for them that can warm them up for you. Then making your content or offers accessible. Yeah, you see some website like this, you want to read the blog post, there's one big banner that will pop up. If you don't keep the banner, you cannot read. It's always difficult at times and increases bounce rate. So once your website keeps getting more bounce rate, you start losing credibility with Google and all of those things. Then in terms of content ideas, so what should you now create? In terms of visuals, you have slides like this one that we're doing now. You have infographics. They are interactive. There are some surveys and quizzes that you can create for people that they can use to help. Sometimes it's just to have fun. I think there was one agency then that became popular, Anaco. They had this bright price app, a web app that they did in those days. I think 2013, 2014, 2015 was really a big thing there. So that bright price app will ask you a set of questions as a woman. Then they will now say your bride price is 10,000 naira, your bride price is 1 million naira. Very funny thing like that, but it was something they were using to get people's attention. And then, even when the owner of the agency was introducing himself, we are the creator of the bride price app, this is that. They were using it to create, they've gone bigger than that now. But as at then, it was something they produced for PR and to get people's attention. And sometimes you can create something interactive like that. And I noticed something too. I think GT Bank too, they are doing something apart from just statements. Then they have this feedback form, like monthly feedback form. I don't know whether it's on every account. They have this monthly feedback based on the experience on this. Can you give us that is interactive? Then they're also doing something like kind of summary of the expenses for the month. So they summarize all your spending for that month. You bought data 10%. 10% of your spending was on data. 10% of your this was on this and on this and on that. So they have stuff like that. It's something that reminds you of how you spend your money for the month. Maybe you get to a stage that become more detailed that you can actually use it for some budgeting and planning. So in terms of video, like events, online conference, you can do video podcast, you can be thinking of what to do. Then for PDF, you can do manuals, you can create white papers, product comparison. Ebook is always relevant at one point or the other. You can do tutorial, you can even do free training yourself. Say for instance, you like the person that I was talking about, maybe inventory manager or affiliate or something, that you can create a training. Even if you can't do the training yourself, pay somebody to facilitate the training. Invite all of them. Even companies that you are not selling to, invite both their supervisor, their warehouse managers, their procurement manager. Come and learn for free. it's only one time you are paying the facilitator to teach them. And if you can put the offer very well, probably the person can give you this one because it's some level of exposure for the person. So both of you can look at how you can create the content and use it to market both sides. So you are creating content and marketing yourself and marketing the facilitator, but you are solving problem for some of the people that you hope to build business with or get business from. So sometimes that works. Like that, our industry event that I mentioned that we were doing, that was what basically we were using that to do. So also in terms of formats that have been working, that people, video formats that people have been using. So this is also some data for you to know the top 3 ones. So we have the webinars, you have webcasts, you have web series, like this one we're doing now. It's an example. You have interviews with industry experts. This always works because people like to hear themselves speak. People like to see themselves in media and all of that. So you can actually have a content style that maybe it's a podcast or just short interview. You visit them, you record the interview, use it as content for yourself to market yourself, market your company, and also some form of marketing for them. You are getting them exposure as well. Then how-to videos about our company and all of that. So these are other ideas. So in terms of resources that you can actually use, so like I told you, I use a lot of reports because I always get a lot of startup news and updates from the report. So your industry will probably have similar reports or journals that you can use or analysis or white paper and stuff like that. So for me, the reports I use is Fintech Forward Loop, there's African Tech Startup. I think there was even one I downloaded yesterday. There's a report on all Nigerian startups that have gone through Y Combinator. So Y Combinator is like the biggest accelerator, it's the biggest program in the world for funding startups. So you know, imagine that report that now details all the startups in Nigeria, all the startups in Africa that have gone through Y Combinator, how much they got, their solution, what have they achieved. So you're going to see a lot of things about those startups that I'm going to use when I'm reaching out to people. Things I'm going to reference like figures and facts about their industry, about their products, about their consumers, like that. So imagine, I think Paystack was the first company that got into it. And I have a client that I want to do SEO for now that is hoping to compete with Paystack on some. So if I'm having a meeting with them and I'm telling them about Paystack, how Paystack grew, when they got money, the product they built, all of that has nothing to do with SEO, but it shows my knowledge of their business, the knowledge of their competitor. It's easy to get the attention of people like that because I understand where they are going. I understand what they would like to become in 5 to 10 years. So it will be easier for them to give me attention and see that actually I'm actually interested in what they are building. Then you also have podcast. There was a particular company that I got into as a result of this. Their CEO did a podcast. I think it was this Grit and Growth. It's a podcast by Stanford Business. So we talked about their skill, what they were doing before, when they raised money, they raised $1 million, what they are planning to do. I immediately knew the kind of people they were going to meet. I just went after them as a result of that. So sometimes when you are listening to podcasts, as somebody that is mindful of your work, you might want to do a mix. So some of your podcasts might be for fun, some might be for business. It's just to discover and know what is going on in your industry, what your target audiences are up to, and how you can start conversations with them. So just give you some examples. Then there are LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has a blog. LinkedIn has a marketing blog. Maybe you don't know. LinkedIn has a sales blog. And they have different topics and different ideas that you can actually reach out to. It's very, very useful. Sometimes they do a recap of the top trends on LinkedIn, the top performing posts on LinkedIn. Or sometimes they do a roundup of what CEO, CMO, CTO, these are reading and all of that. All of that are very good at insight. HubSpot too, they have a lot of free resources, same as Backlinko and more. There was a time I was always reading more every Friday. I think they had Whiteboard Friday. I was always watching that video every Friday. It was just for my own knowledge and the knowledge of industry for me. Then LinkedIn post. I'll probably show you my LinkedIn Sales Navigator later. So when you have a Sales Navigator account and you have some companies, you will see the post by the decision makers in that company or top people in that company. You can see what they are posting. And from there, you have an idea of what's going on. Sometimes you talk to people as if you work in their company. It's because you've been following them, you've been gathering data. And you might be talking to somebody and you're telling the person about something they posted in January, and the person will be like, oh, really, you saw that post? So that's part of data. It's not always 30% of Unicorn did this, 40% of this did not do that. It's sometimes when you pick what people have done before, you pick some insight out of it and use it to talk to them. Sometimes it works. Then you have Tech Media, Tech Taba, Tech Point, Disrupt Africa to talk a lot about African startups and all of that. Then the thing extra mostly talks about Europe and companies in UK. Startups basically. What is happening to startups in UK and Europe and some part of America too. Then you have newsletters. There are some that have very good newsletters that you can use. Each space has some. For you that you are B2B tech company, really. Maybe for all if you are not within B2B tech company, you may want to check the ones that are relevant to your industry. Lead space, tech about tech point. Act Sultan is one bad engineer or developer that has a very funny newsletter. I don't know whether it's open to everybody, but then it's one of those newsletters I used to read. So now I want to show you my example of some of the things I have created. So hopefully this thing does not give me a headache. Now let me see what mode I'm using. Okay, let me try first. So I showed you the CRM. Are we on the same? Okay, let me just share this. I'm sure we're not on the same page. Let me share. I'm actually on a Google Sheet now. Yes, so my Google Sheets will be showing on your screen now. Is it? Hello?
Yes, it is. Sorry, my laptop was frozen. Yes, it is.
Oh, all right. Okay, cool. So now this is an example of some hell of data-driven marketing that I have done. So now this is a lead sheet that I created, right? I think this can take a while. So now look at the criteria that we were using. So we have their first name, we have their last name, we have their title. So this is actually for so this is a platform that does business development. So they just do what they do business development for other companies. So none of their clients has an analytic platform. So it's like a platform like the CRM that you can plug. It's a CRM, but you can plug into your own CRM or other software that you are using. It is for listening to data, your consumer insights. So how will you do business development? How do you get appointment? Just quickly to go meeting with people who may be interested in buying this software. So now this is what I created for them. So we have their first name, their last name, the title, that's the authority part. Then the account, that's the company they work with. Then I have their LinkedIn profile. We're gonna do some monitoring spirit and see what they are doing. Then I have, after their LinkedIn profile, I do a research on them. So for everybody I reach out on behalf of this company, I must always find something that they have done before. Whether it's a blog post, whether they went to an event, they spoke at a seminar, they went to a conference, I always have to find something, whether they wrote a book they did not publish or whatever. That is where the conversation always starts from. For this particular company, that was the approach we agreed on, right? There's always one data, there's always one research or insight that they've done before. Then I'll now tie that to the conversation I'm starting with them. From that, now tied to the customer and the consumer insight platform I'm introducing to them. Then you see contact research and why. So you are not just using that thing to reach out to them, you're also justifying why that would be very relevant to them and all of that. Then so now this is what it looks like. Let me now show you when it gets to email. what it looks like when it becomes email. All right. Are we on the same page now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So now, for instance, now this is one of them that I attended that spoke actually made a presentation as Intellicon 2020. Right. I started my conversation from there. Like, oh, so I saw your presentation on this, and you talked about this. So I looked at one of the things she talked about in that presentation that was actually relevant to gathering consumer insights. And that was where I started the conversation from, right? So there are other things like that. And eventually I share success story of other competitors that have used it, other companies that have used that particular consumer insight platform and what they have to say about it in my email. So I'm starting the conversation with what you've done that is relevant to what I'm selling. I'm ending it with testimonials of what people are saying about what I'm giving you. So that's from data-led or data-driven content marketing. So it's the same thing to that. I don't know whether the links is going to come with the presentation that I'm going to send to Mikayo yet. I'm still thinking about it, but it could be a useful template to some people in terms of building out your content or your content strategy or your B2B prospecting eventually. So you are not just reaching out to people and start saying, oh, my name is Daddy Labaja. I'm reaching out to bottle and bottle company. We sell the best drinks in the world. Would you like to buy from us? Most times people will just ignore you, they will not answer. It's always very important when you start from the side of the fence, you're talking about them. I'm just giving you more and more examples of this particular software. So I have this template used for different people because they're in different companies and slightly different industries, right? And then I found different things about them. So I have to adapt that same template for each of those companies. But eventually, and there are some of them actually, see, if you see this place now, there's actually some reports that I think will be useful for them. I put it in the bottom so that they can go and read it and use it as well. So that for the example. Okay, so now let me now show you. I told you that I read a lot of reports for my own. So if I'm starting now, so let me show you an example. This is a report that came out. This is May. I think this report came out last month, talking about tech startups in Africa, their funding, how they've raised funding uh, in some months and what they use the funding for. So let me show you now. This thing is a bit slow because it's okay. This place is not even projecting yet. Let me project. Let me project this place. Sorry, I didn't even know that this place is not presenting yet. So that you guys can see the report I'm talking about. I hope this thing does not scatter now. Let me see. Where's the tab? Okay. So now this is it. Okay. Are we on the same page now? I'm actually sharing a report now.
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay. So now this is a report on funding in Africa, startup funding from 2015 to 2021, and how they have raised money and all of that. So now let me show you where I used to go on a report like that. All of these are nice. Maybe if I'm doing LinkedIn posts and stuff, I can use this part. But there's something I'm looking out for the talent marketplace now. For instance, let's say I want to look for clients based on this report now. Let me show you where I'm going. So you see the women in tech and all of those things. Some of these things are good when you are reaching out to people and you're quoting figures and stuff. Or you're writing on LinkedIn posts and you want to sound like a professor. You see all of things. If you don't read reports, you struggle with some of this data that you are going to use. Sorry, it's taking a while. I have a particular place I'm going. There's a particular place for emerging product. So this is the breakdown of funding per country. So I can see how much each country raised, what sector is raising more money than other people, and what are the companies, the top companies raising those money, right? This is Ghana. There's not actually a part I'm going to. Just taking a while. So you have sector news, fintech, and all of that. If most of your clients are in fintech, this is something you want to read and see what they are doing, who is raising money, who has money. Sometimes you good to know who has money before you go after them. So you don't waste your time chasing people that can't pay for your product. Things. I wish I can just jump. I don't know the exact page number, but there is a page. There's a report on new startups I used. I've actually added some of them already. That I'm already following up with them and monitoring their activities that I'm using to gather data. And when I'm going to be reaching out to them now, I'll be speaking from the place of knowledge and understanding of their business and what they've done in the past. So you can see each sector now. For that, let me see. Okay, now this is one of the parts. So you see acquisitions now. When companies buy new companies, they always expand or they reduce the number of people or hire new people and all of that. Wow, I think I've even passed. Google Meet is not as nice as it's supposed to be. It's always difficult when you're projecting, when you're presenting something that is outside of I'm actually looking for. There's actually a part of the report that talks about new companies, and that's what I'm looking. That's what I'm looking for. This sector report. But then let me show you. Let me show you one of. Let me show you some of those companies because I've actually added some of them to my prospecting accounts that I use. In 1 minute, I'm opening it. I'll present it now so that you guys will see what I'm saying. So the journey usually is when I read report like that, I pick those startups that raise funds, how much they raise, what they intend to do with that money. So we're going to reach out to them so that we are going to spend this money, we just this together. It's not only you that are going to spend it. Let me stop sharing the report. Next, we'll be seeing my navigator page. So this is actually my own CRM or my own sales platform that I use. Now look at some of the companies that. Now look at it now. So a company like Yowu, I've added them. Then I have an update on what each of them is doing. So now look at it. That report, if you don't read that report, these are like the emerging companies from that report. That is on the left. So 54 gene number. So this Kudi, I've actually been following them before they changed to number. And I have a couple of them that I've added. Then there's Clone, there's Stendo. You see YC 2020. So this one, they are still in a Y Combinator. They are still going through the accelerator. So by the time they finish now and they come out, I'm already waiting for them. That is if I still need to reach out to them. But then I'm already following their journey. So I'm reaching out to them and I'm saying, so I've been following your journey, how was YC and all of those things. It's always data-driven conversation makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So now let me see. Let me now give you an example of that number. So what do you do? So when you had the company like that, then you see the decision makers that you have there. You can actually see some insights inside of it. You see their CTO. So if I'm starting from the top, basically I've seen their VP marketing and communications. I've seen their COO and CTO. So these are the two people I need to start conversation with. Basically, see the CEO, I've already added the person. I guess this person just joined them recently. I'm adding the person. So as I'm adding them, when I go back to my own page, as those guys are posting their new post, their new milestone, new ads about their account, whatever it is that they are posting that is going to be relevant to me, LinkedIn is going to gather all of this information and put it here for me. So I can also read about the company itself. Now look at the insights you have about the company. There you see the number of employees they have. Then you can do distribution and see. Now look at it. This is the part that concerns me. So they have just 5%. You see the number of engineering that they have. So at some point you'll be expanding, probably building new products or adding new products and all of that to you. You see, now look at it, accelerated growth. So LinkedIn is telling me that they increased hiring over the last 3 months. So they have been hiring people. And look at it now, engineering 5% more. In the last 3 months, they've hired more engineers in the last 3 months. So now these are all the data that I actually use. And then I also use their company page as well, right? I go to their company page, I look at the jobs they posted, the things they posted, the ad that they've run recently, and all of those things. So now these are like the things that I use. And when I want to reach out to them as well, I can always reach out. I have 2 people I can reach out to straight up now in number. If I'm going to reach out to people in number, basically. So those people that I've had it, this is where they come to. This is how I get to read up what they are doing, what they are. It's there. And if you now let's now say, okay, I want to go. I want to do like fast stuff now. I want to do. Let me see. Let me look for. Let's say I want to build a list of CTOs now that I want to reach out to. Right. So you have all of these things, whether people you're already connected with. So sometimes it's difficult for you to start conversation with people you are not connected with. And it still happened to like a former boss who reached out to me maybe 3 weeks ago. He's actually trying to bring in like an FX company or something, trying to introduce it to one of the biggest asset management companies in Nigeria. And he's been trying to reach out to the woman, so he has not been able to. And the woman is my own connection. So I had to do the intro and then introduce them. From there, they picked up their conversation and then they moved on from there. So sometimes when somebody is not directly connected to you, and there's something that they used to say, sometimes there are 3 connections away from Dangote, 3 connections away from Otedola. The person that probably give you your biggest ticket in your career, probably 3 connections away from them. It's a matter of asking, knowing who your connection is connected to, who that connection is connected to, and all of that. So sometimes you go with that, sometimes you go with definitely because the particular platform is African. I'm trying to introduce startups in Nigeria. So I'll pick Nigeria. Immediately I pick Nigeria, it reduces, or you see now this is CTO in Nigeria, right? So I can now go to industry. I can go to industry level. Don't know whether it's Google Meet that is slow, my network that is slow. This thing is annoying me. So I cannot look at the industry level. Definitely, fintech has been a very good market for me. I will always go into fintech, any opportunity I see. Let me see. Banking, a lot of banking are building fintech products. Let's see. So just for those 2 industries, you see that the numbers, if you've been following it now, the number of people you are seeing is going to be reducing. Because eventually you have broken it down from the role. So I started from CTO because in most cases they are the influencer for engineering hires. So they're hiring engineering in any company. the bulk of the decision is made by the CTO. In most cases, the CEO will just approve for this now. Now look at it now. You probably have this that you see. I'm beginning to see some of my connections. So if it happens that I have not spoken with them before, at least I know the room is connected to this person. I can always ask the room to introduce me if I don't want to bother the person directly. So it works like that. Sometimes you see your shared connection, you see the CTO. I can always message them. So like the message I showed you earlier on that I've created, done the template, put their name, the company, the resources, and everything that I have found. I'll just click message and send them the message. Then I'll start following up with them from there and all of that. So basically, that is my own journey for that when I'm prospecting and I'm looking for different ways and different people to. So let me see. I think the only thing we have left now is just one more example, which is a bit long. Then we can now take questions and answer like that. Oh, okay. I see you. Let me see. Sorry, I've forgotten what I said the other time. Now I hope everything will just start again. Are we together now? Okay. Can you see my video?
No, we can't see the video.
It has gone back to that Wahala setting again.
Yes, I can see your presentation.
It has gone to that Wahala setting again. Let me use the Windows setting. Refresh. Is it speaking or is not?
I can't hear the audio. Maybe you want to try the YouTube link like you did the last time or something.
True. Let me use. It's not even a YouTube video. That's the thing. Well, you guys can watch the video. Let me just move on to the next slide. It's for MailChimp. So some of the videos I share, which even the Facebook one is not listed, it's on YouTube, but you can't find it if you search unless you have the link. So this one as well, I had to do some wuru engineering to be able to extract the video from the website. You are most likely not going to find, but I have the link. So when you get the presentation, you'll be able to watch the video. You want to click the link. I've already linked it. So now let me just talk about why I picked this as a case study of data-driven content marketing. So now we all know when the George Floyd issue happened, the protest that came as a result of that. So MailChimp now saw opportunity in the fact that a lot of Black people need to be heard. A lot of CEOs, if you actually watch that video, it's one of those small businesses. So they found that a lot of Black CEOs are struggling because, quote and unquote, they are not connected. Quote and unquote, they are from the minority segment. So it's always difficult for them to get into bigger companies, especially companies dominated by white decision makers. So they decided to create a platform called Bloom Season. So one of the videos on that platform is this Strength in Number. So it's an art exhibition company that they create African art. Art by people of color, Indians, Asians, and the rest of them. So they just do the video, they use the video to promote the company, while they use it to target Black entrepreneurs, right? So, and how did they arrive at this? So after the protest, they've seen that, okay, white people really need opportunity, they need a stage to speak. So the head of marketing and one other person in the company now started interviewing Black founders that they know. There were some they reached out on social media, and then they were able to find three things. They saw isolation, they saw alienation, and then they still mistrust. A lot of people don't trust them, especially some older white people don't trust them enough to do business with them. So they decided to now start creating content with them and showcasing them to the people. I really wish I could. Maybe I can try if we still have the time. But at this point, I think we can take questions, and from there we can now close. So your questions and all now.
Please, you can unmute your mic if you have a question. Okay, so no question for now.
And then I think we can come to the end of the class then. If we don't have questions.
I don't think there's any. It's really a lot to digest. Even me myself, I would still go back to you and work again because when I mean a lot to digest, I mean this is very detailed. This is like a paid course. This is something you pay like $1,500 to $2,000 cost for or a webinar. That's what I mean by that. Very well detailed. So this is a very big thank you. Adeyemi, trust me, like I said, I took notes. I'm going back to go and rewatch it again to make sure that I don't miss anything and I get the highest value out of this. Thank you so much for taking out your time to do this. We will share the presentation like I mentioned earlier, so you register.
Okay.
And then YouTube link as well. I'll have the YouTube link shared with you as well as others. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day, guys. If there are any questions.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You can always link up later on. When you get the presentation, you have my LinkedIn, my email, and all of that.